Hey everyone, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social greeting series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we host readings from transgressive and outsider authors. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. If you're watching this on YouTube, maybe go check out miserytourism.com. Maybe check us out on Twitter at miserytourism. And you'll find on Twitter there'll be a thread that will have maybe links to some of the works read tonight. Okay, that said, Gabriel, you're up first, and you're going to be reading an excerpt from your work in progress novel, I think you said.
Yeah, it's called High Prey Drive. It's essentially about it's sort of like a period novel. It takes place in the early '90s about the big Orange County methamphetamine renaissance. So it's about these punk kids that get wrapped up in it. To bring you up to where I'm going to read from, they all hung out at this house, kind of like a punk house growing up, and they've since grown up. And the kid whose house it was, he ends up selling it to one of the kids that used to live there, and they find something in the basement. So I will start there. They make eye contact with each other to assure they both see it. Witnessing Mikey's astonishment makes Caleb feels like he's seeing it for the first time all over again. They can't look away from the corpse, then from each other, then back and forth, rendering it all so unreal it's like being trapped in the dream of a ghost, hidden behind unattainable stars like two astronauts forbidden to return to Earth. Don't tell me you didn't know what was down here, man. You were playing hot potato with this fucking house, weren't you? Caleb, I swear to God, I'm driving over here all pissed that you're going to make me fix something. Well, yeah, fucking fix it. Dude, I have no idea what's going on. Where did this whole add-on come from? Is this like a bench or a fucking casket? I have no idea, man. I haven't been down here since right after my mom's funeral. I took a quick look to make sure nothing was left behind. Well, as you could see, something was. Man, fuck you. You were the only one spearheading the whole campaign to snuff him out. It was all of us, man. The operation just needed someone in charge. Mikey peers back down. Okay, that jacket. One thing I know for sure is that he was not wearing this jacket that night. He was wearing shorts and a tank top. We were in the middle of a heat wave, remember? Yeah, I remember how hot it was that day, but I barely remember leaving your house to meet him at the park. Like, I barely remember him coming to the park. Okay, Mikey, seriously, what else do you remember from that night? Like anything else, even if it seems inconsequential. Mikey goes silent, trying to flip through snapshots of a wet brain. Man, all I know is that he showed up to the park and he was not wearing this jacket. Do you think we did this? Yes, I mean, I know we did this. We planned it out and we fucking did this to a human fucking being. I mean, he's right here. Mikey grits his teeth. I just feel like there was an accident in the plan. You don't remember an argument breaking out that night at the park? Mikey, you're grasping at straws, making shit up because you're scared. But we can't be scared, man. We need to deal with the reality of this. Caleb paces around the room, the same type of desperate wandering he did the night he demanded they kill a human being. You know what never made sense and always left me unsettled? I mean, besides all of this, the last time I saw Rudy and he stunned me just like that. Yeah, we never got to the bottom of that, did we? I mean, he was really resentful that we were planning on doing this, you know? I just feel like we have to find him, talk to him. It was just a weird way to exit our lives. Caleb, you're getting butthurt about a kid not wanting to be an accomplice to murder again. You made someone exit their life. Don't you get it? Mikey, just because you're on the straight and narrow doesn't mean you can paint me as psycho. We were all involved, man. Should we call Bobby or Jean? No, absolutely not. I felt bad enough calling you. At this point, I want the least amount of people to have this on their conscience. We're going to keep this between you and I. He pauses. And Rudy, I know he knows something about this. They replace the planks on the bench, resealing the makeshift catacomb. They have 5 hours before Kat gets off work. Mikey drives them to Rudy's uncle's old place, praying that he still lives there. They're in luck. He has the same construction truck that was parked in the driveway. They run up to the porch and knock, calmly as they can, with a ticking time bomb on their hands. Jorge is cordial at first, then slightly apprehensive once they identify as Rudy's friends from high school. He hesitates, communicating that they may have been a bad influence on his nephew. You know, he left town because of you guys, right? Caleb and Mikey do the whole everything is different now song and dance so well that he offers up his address and phone number in San Francisco. They say their thanks and split fast. The next order of business is to get the remains out of the basement. They're determined to give Rico a proper burial in the garden. Maybe it will be closure that they need, you know, if they just hadn't fucking killed the guy. Do you want to keep the coat, Mikey? They shake the remains from the frayed clothing, though the blue coat has retained its integrity, a testament to vintage tailorship and the insistence on quality materials from yesteryear. What am I going to do? Take it to the fucking dry cleaners? Sorry, I'm not thinking straight. I just know how much you liked it. We should probably just burn the clothes, right? Definitely, but we shouldn't do it here. Since you're bearing the brunt of a lot of this, I'll at least take the clothes somewhere to burn. They pile the bones into a black trash bag. It takes everything they have just to keep going, to be non-emotional, to think of every human, not just this human, as nothing more than something that will one day just rot away, regardless of morality. We all just become part of the earth again, they think. Caleb takes the first dig of the shovel into the garden's soft and fertile soil. He starts slow and solemn, but by the third strike, he picks up pace, frantically excavating as if he's trying to dig himself out of this hopelessness. I guess when you have a conscience, you never really get away with anything, right, Mikey? I guess. But if that's the case, I would have preferred to be a callous sociopath. Mikey keeps watch over the fence, assuring he sees no movement beyond the neighbor's hedges to the right. Caleb digs a hole about 5 feet deep. Only his head is sticking out when he calls it quits. In solidarity, they both lower the bag into the hole, on their knees, arching all the way down so they don't drop it, grasping at straws for any last-ditch attempt to show respect. Should we say anything before we cover it all up, like a prayer or something? Fuck, I don't know. I don't really believe in God. And if I'm about to start believing in him, the last thing I would tell him is that we did this. He already knows. It's God, you idiot. Their voices quiver as they ruminate on the existence of a higher power. It takes a lot to get there, but they arrive at a vaguely comforting verdict that if this happened a decade ago, and if there is a God, he's already forgiven them. The battle they'll wage with their own conscience would be the atonement. The crime is the punishment. It's now up to us when we're going to forgive ourselves, they agree, as Caleb pats down the last batch of dirt on their roots of regret. He hates the fact that he's doing it like this, but it's the only way. Caleb writes Kat a note instead of telling her, or even asking her, that he's going to be gone for a couple days, that he and Mikey have some time-sensitive things to take care of, that he will explain it all when he gets back and not to worry. He vows to tell her everything, but first needs to know the whole story, which they just don't have yet. Mikey agreed to drive them to San Francisco. He can't deny the importance of tracking down Rudy to get some kind of closure about this. His wife is going to think he's cheating on him or something, but it has to be done. He'll be a better man when he returns. They're on the road by 2 p.m., aiming to arrive by 8, just miss rush hour. They're mostly silent for the first hour until they reach the winding hills of the Grapevine, the landscape opening as their inhibitions decide it's okay to talk. They keep it light, catching up on brands they're into, books they've read, until they reach the straightaway of the 5 freeway. They know they'll be on there for hours, so they allow their dialogue to descend much deeper. Suddenly, they're comforted by the fact that it's just the two of them, that they've now seen everything, like two vets. Nothing is off limits. Nothing is exempt from ridicule or admission of love or regret. Their only certainty is that they have to keep moving forward. It's the answer to every mystery they share, large or small. The fresh breeze of the bay is a brisk slap to their face, reminding them of the task at hand. They're escaping a kind of heat by coming up here, yet it's no vacation. The directions lead them to Polk Street. They see a light on in the apartment, but they hesitate. Maybe they should call first. Mikey has one of those new Nokia cell phones. They try once, no answer. Maybe he wouldn't dare answer a 949 number. Caleb walks them to the payphone on the corner. They try again. Hello? Rudy? Rudy, this is Caleb, your old friend. I'm with Mikey out here. Click. Disheartening, but progress compared to whatever they had before. It doesn't stop Caleb from cringing anyway, feeling like one of their old junkie friends from LA trying to disturb someone trying to recover. They wait a couple minutes, making sure he doesn't leave or turn off his lights to hide. Neither happens, so they take it as a signal. Rudy was never one to run from confrontation. It's as if he's saying, well, I'm right fucking here, come and get it. They walk up the stairs, apartment 1, to the left of the stop. They knock, eager yet polite as can be. The door swings open. What? He's holding a baseball bat. What? What do you guys want? We need to talk to you, man. About what? There's nothing to talk about. There's a lot to talk about, Rudy. Just give us a half hour and you'll never hear from us again. What are you going to do, call the cops? Rudy takes the bat off his shoulders, resting the head of it on the ground like a cane. All right, you guys got me for a half hour, and then if I see you again, it'll only be to extract this bat from your head. Cool? They don't have to explain why they drove 300 miles to talk. Rudy dives right into it to speed things up. So what, you want to know why I stopped talking to you, right? They nod sheepishly. Okay, well, it shouldn't be that mysterious. What did I tell you guys? I didn't want to be involved with any of that shit with Rico, right? Right, and you weren't, right? You fucking idiots, man. Rudy paces, looking for something to punch. You guys are the sloppiest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. All I was trying to do was to do a job for Queen Bee, and I end up doing all your fucking dirty work. You guys just thought I was the fucking beaner of the gang the whole time, huh? Wait, what? Don't give me that shit, man. You killed a guy, and then I saved your fucking lives. He tells them everything with perfect recall. Queen Bee had been pestering me to build that stupid add-on in the basement. It was her way of caring about us, giving us a place to sit down there when she could have been doing a gazillion more important things, like, I don't know, maybe not doing drugs with us, for starters. Whatever. But she kept it between the two of us for some reason. She wanted it to be a surprise. I mean, shit, it's not like I was building us a fucking swing set or some shit, you know? It just got into her head and she wouldn't let it go. So I knew when you guys were planning to do the whole thing with Rico, in the spirit of acting natural and really to distract me from what was going on, I decided I was going to start that morning after. You know, like, hey, I'm just a fucking carpenter here, right? So I show up and no one's fucking there. You're all gone, like evacuated, like some fucking Manson family vacation or some shit. So I go down there with my tools, set them down, and I didn't notice at first, but on my second trip down there with the 2x4s, I see Rico curled up. I froze, but then went over, and yeah, he was fucking dead, man. Head in the puddle of vomit. Whatever that stuff was you gave him, it obviously worked quicker than you thought. I felt his pulse. He was out. And you motherfuckers were gone. Caleb interrupts him. Hold on, man. We didn't flee the scene. The house got raided and we all got taken in. Queen Bee, all of us. They got us for drugs. Yeah, and Rico wasn't there with us. Rico wasn't there with us, says Mikey. Did you guys go downstairs at all? No, but the cops did. That's where they found the drugs. This makes no sense. Well, that motherfucker was down there dead as fuck when I showed up at noon. So what was I supposed to think? I said I wanted no fucking part of snuffing out our friend, and what happens? Now I gotta dispose of him somehow because I'm thinking you guys just ran when you saw that he was dying. Like all of a sudden you couldn't handle it. Just like I was telling you guys I wouldn't be able to. Or just like I was telling you guys wouldn't be able to. So what did I do? I went to work as fast as I could before who fucking knows would come down the stairs thinking I killed the guy. The absolute least the guy deserved was a proper casket, some privacy to carry him into the afterlife where God could be the one to judge him, not you guys. Him and I were both raised Catholic. We had an immediate bond like that, and he shared a lot of secrets with me. He pauses. For example, do you even know why Rico's parents were so broke? Why he insisted on sending them money every month? Caleb and Mikey upturned their palms to the sky in frustrated surrender to their ignorance. I mean, we all just assumed everyone in Puerto Rico was broke. Well, it's a lot more complicated than that. I ain't going to go into details, but something bad happened between him and their Catholic pastor. So bad that they went broke hiring lawyers. The thing is, you can figure everyone in Puerto Rico is Catholic, even the lawyers. So they weren't as thorough with the courtroom interrogations as they could have been, and they botched the case. Fuck, the Catholic Church is like their own gang, man. It's fucked up. Obviously, Rico got bitter while things got even more desperate, so he said fuck it and got into the cocaine trade to support his family. It quickly went from last resort to a way of life because he suddenly felt responsible for their hardships. Like I was saying, I had to act quick because, well, I knew it was too late to save Rico, but I could still maybe save you guys. In a way, I felt like it was my duty to do it, maybe to atone for my own sins, like I had to face a facsimile of my own crime to make peace with it. He pauses. But don't think for a fucking second I'm not still pissed. I just had to do whatever I could to make sense out of it, create my own resolve so I could move on. But look, here you are again, making that impossible all over again. They sit in silence, just letting him talk. It's a lot to take in and no time to inject a counterpoint. There's no opinion when it comes to murder. I'm going to take a wild guess here. When was the last time you guys even talked to Dylan? Man, he disappeared the same time you did. He blamed the whole gang for what happened to him. Well, for one, he should have grown a pair and taken it up with Rico immediately. If he would have found the guts to beat the shit out of him, that would be all the proof anyone needed. Then we all could have moved on. You should have encouraged him to stand up for himself, like a real family would have. What'd you do instead? You made it all about you. Which brings me to number 2. No wonder Dylan disappeared. You were going to blow the whole thing up. You think someone who just got raped is going to want to put all his friends in danger because of it? Have it turn into front page news because someone fucking died? When you get raped, you already think it's your fault. He pivots and punches a hole in his wall. You realize that if it wasn't for me, you guys would still be in fucking jail, right? After you made damn sure Rico would never learn? You made it so a rapist would never learn. What did I tell you back in 93? You can't teach someone a lesson when they're fucking dead. He runs to the window, punching it twice until it shatters the third time. He glares, reserving an eye for each of them. I think you guys should leave now. Mikey urges they get a hotel for the night. Why, so we could pay to not sleep, says Caleb. I'll drive us home right now. I need something to focus on besides everything we just heard. Mikey decides he's not going to tell his wife. It'd do more damage than good to be honest about something she had nothing to do with. She only knows one side of him. He prefers to keep it that way. Caleb knows he has to tell Kat if they're turning over the new leaf of getting clean. He knows he has to come clean about everything, even if she never sees them the same again. Absolute integrity had to start at some point. They hit the endless black ribbon of the 5 by 10. It was like they're the only ones on the road. They feel so repellent, it's no surprise. But for no traffic, it's becoming the longest road trip of their lives. Caleb would have preferred some kind of congestion, something to inspire road rage. All he gets is focused obsession of pure regret. A profound shame traps his heart and mind. He imagines piercing his own flesh to let it all out, like the way they used to bleed the speed demons out. Only now he sees the demon was himself all along. Mikey's passed out, snoring in the passenger seat. Caleb prays for the first time in his life, begging for redemption, but without clear focus on who might judge him. Who is judging him now? My own standards. A good a place as any to start. The acknowledgement of his standards, his present values, his insistence that he would never kill a human being ever again. He searches for his 17-year-old self somewhere under all those layers of armor, of self-delusion, the desperate need to simply survive and keep moving. That teenage version of himself finally materializes, fronting with tough guy posturing like his gangmates. Only it's instantly transparent he may have been the most cowardly one out of the whole gang, who would have to prove his small-town street prowess by removing a man from the earth, by manipulating Mikey and the rest of them. They weren't men unless they could kill a man. Finally, once the final veil fades and Caleb has a clear vision of himself at 17, he's not sure whether to hug him or kill him. What would make the future a better place?
Oh, wow. Excuse me. Should have cleared my throat before I opened my mouth. No, I'm riveted by that. I was immediately sucked in. I love the way it's framed because there's so much uncertainty about what happened. And I love the premise that even they don't know whether they've killed this guy or not because they were presumably, I guess, because they were so completely coked up at the time. And
right.
And I love that premise. The body's there, they have the guilt. They know that they wanted to do this thing, but they don't know if they did it or not. and just the whole way that unravels and the way it pulls them like back into their past and pulls them into that like place of regret and loss and confusion. It's just structured in a really riveting way. And I
Thank
was
you,
just sucked in the whole time.
Miller. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for indulging.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for reading. You'll have to tell me when it's close to done or when it's getting published so that I can read the whole thing.
It's done. I'm doing. Some beta readers are looking at it. It's basically done. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting to see it in its entirety then.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for reading. Josh, you with us, Josh, still?
Always very present.
So I'll put the link. I know you put the link in the chat earlier. I'll put the link in the chat again. I won't tweet it out though. Since it's a work in progress. So this is a short story.
Yeah, and I have some context for it, but I only want to say it after because I am curious for any feedback. I mean, of course, if no one has anything to say, that's fine. But I don't want to say anything about it. I just want to present it, and then I did send it to Hobart, and the guest editor, said they read it twice, so I did something right, but it just didn't work for them. And I kind of, at the time I sent it, so I sent them an earlier version. I kind of agreed, so this is the latest. But before I read that, I actually just wrote a poem like now, which I wanted to just, as like I don't know.
Yeah, take it away, man.
It's untitled because I couldn't think of a good title. Wonder what Pantone would name the shade of yellow that my piss is on the third day of a bender. Can it be color of the year? So that was, I don't know, it just occurred to me. So now I'm going to open the Google Doc. I changed the font. It's going to be boomer style. I write at home and I constantly change the font and the size as I'm writing. I don't know. I find it helps. I get stuck on, you know what I mean? I'm mostly a Garamond 16 point, but right now we're going to go with Meriwether 14. So it's called the North End. I wanted out. My mom was scattering job applications everywhere. She'd given up harassing me in the hall, telling me to grow up and be a man. It had gone on like that for months, but we'd entered a new phase in our domestic battle. Now, the forms confronted me on the kitchen table like placemats. I'd find them taped to my computer screen or slipped between the pages of my favorite books. When a folded Tim Hortons application slid out from my copy of So the Wind Won't Blow It All Away, I was surprised a hairnet wasn't attached. It wasn't that I didn't want a job. I was desperate for independence, a place of my own, to finally escape the North End where I'd spent the first 25 years of my life. But couldn't she tell it was the Great Recession? That a job at McDonald's would be anathema to my intellectual constitution? I decided to call Mark, my only friend who hadn't moved downtown after high school or university. We'd forged a relationship from shared inertia. Hey man, he said. It sounded like he'd just woken up. What's up? Nothing much, he said. Work last night was insane. I pulled a knife on that Sri Lankan cook. Not really sure if I can go back there again. He had to stop fucking with the Sri Lankan. I know, man, he said, this shit can't go on. We'd taken to drinking in the park outside his parents' condo, which is why I called. Sure, I'm down, Mark said, but I got a shower first. The Sri Lankan doused me with dishwater. We agreed on a time, and I hung up realizing that the beer store was going to close in 15 minutes. I slipped outside unnoticed, my mom's attentions directed towards a contractor, garbage man, pool guy, or whatever other sort of meathead layman she was dating. Sometimes these men would try and talk to me, and it was just embarrassing. What did they know about art? I had to fight thick overgrowth to reach my bike, a rusted CCM that I'd inherited from my grandpa. I hadn't mowed the lawn because I'd get around to it. Same with trimming the branches that whipped me in the face. I held up a low-hanging one to pass underneath. Even if I dealt with the botanical situation, festering outside our rented bungalow, everything would grow back. It seemed insane, the things people filled their days with: gardening, making beds, running marathons, attending weddings, reunions, wakes. Marathon runners were probably the most depraved of all. The smug sense of self-satisfaction from good health that they emanated. They were like nuns with their ridiculous attire and a certain cleanliness that's somehow vulgar because of what it's meant to supersede. Despite an athlete's efforts, though, they'd decay like the rest of us, and I savored the thought. Sometimes I'd see a group of them on the subway, heading off to the races in colorful New Balance shoes. I wanted to remind them of their mortality, but usually I just board a different train car. Pushing them out of my mind, I pedaled into the drawn curtain of night, barely making it to the beer store in time. It's a pause, it's not the end. Fuck, White Claw's good. The lime variety. Beer cans clanged together in my backpack like dull chimes as I rode along. Big maple trees swayed in the summer breeze. I estimated my bank account had $5 left in it and regretted not buying 2 more tall boys. I passed a for rent sign and it reminded me of being alive. Riding the final block to the park, I had the suburban sensation of passing the same house 100 times. The only thing suggestive of human life was the occasional set of headlights coming towards me. Mark was waiting when I got there. Cheers, he said, twisting the cap off a Miller Genuine Draft. I grabbed a Budweiser, cracked it open, and took a sip. The stuff was warm and metallic tasting. We walked over to the gazebo. We were the only ones who ever hung out there, besides the person who had carved piss fuck into one of the wooden benches. I tried to calculate the combined age of the residents of the condos piled up all around us, the blunt towers prodding the sky like butter knives. Seniors favored the apartment complex, though it wasn't explicitly a retirement community. 10,000 years, I guessed. All those years accumulated here. It felt like a museum of nothing. A white short bus came every day and took the seniors to the nearby mall, where my last job was selling chinos at the Gap. The shuttle service deposited them early, and sometimes, when I had a morning shift, they'd be filing into the mall as I got there. Obviously, they weren't there to work, but they didn't shop either. They'd just walk up and down the glossy halls, their movements rigid and unnatural. This was their exercise, their marathon. A coworker called it the zombie walk. I called it what I called everything they did, a near-death experience. You know what I was thinking? Asked Mark, returning me to the gazebo and the artisanal woodwork of pissfuck. What? There's something wrong with us. I'd thought it too. Look at us, dude, Mark continued. We're man babies, gigantic drooling man babies. I thought about the fetishists who dress up like babies. You know, the ones who pull on diapers and roll around together all day in adult nurseries. Didn't seem so absurd. At least not any more so than getting plastered in the gazebo in the suburbs of Toronto on a Tuesday night. Josh, if we were going to do something, don't you think we'd have done it already, or at least started? I mentioned that Henry Pierre Rocher's first novel didn't appear until he was 76. It's true. Fuck that. What about us? Mark said. Maybe we should just give up all artistic pretense and go to trade school, police foundations, become plumbers, anything. Well, I can't even stand the sight of my own shit, I said. It was true. As a kid, I'd hold it in as long as I could, my ass sweating from the effort. Toilets reminded me we were all just tubes of waste secreting garbage constantly. Garbage babies. I drained my beer. It was past midnight and the moon was full. It reminded me of an evening a couple of years ago. I was watching an episode of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader on TV with my grandmother, who I was staying with when my mom cooled off from some argument. The game show host asked where the moon's light came from. Some fifth grader, answered that it was reflected from the sun. This was too much for my grandmother, who interpreted scripture literally, right down to 2 of every animal on an ark in the water. Lies, she hissed. Then she picked up her Bible, which she always had at hand, and read me a passage. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. Looking up at the moon once more, I wanted to believe with my grandmother's conviction again, just like I did in my childhood. My can was light, and I didn't have another. I suggested we head over to Midway. Other than gas stations, the Midway restaurant was the only place open in the neighborhood at that hour. It was a long, narrow diner of linoleum and melamine, host to an assortment of degenerates. No matter how worthless you felt, Midway's patrons were always there for favorable comparison. Stepping into the place was like turning over a large rock after a rainstorm. A whole civilization of slithering, crawling forms exposed. We took a seat in a booth by the window up front. Nobody paid us any attention. There was a man hunched over a table towards the back. There wasn't anything on the table except for his head. Two older dudes sat at a bar drinking Coors, saying nothing. Eventually, a middle-aged waitress waddled over. She was wearing a palm tree graphic t-shirt that said, "You had me at Aloha." Mark ordered a couple coffees and told me that he'd pick up the tab. The waitress sighed and headed back behind the counter. From where I sat, I could see into the kitchen. There was a whole chicken thawing in a yellow bucket on wheels. Wet floor was written on the dingy bucket. I decided against ordering anything to eat. Neither of us could ever become a doctor now, even if we wanted to, Mark said as the waitress approached, almost imperceptibly, with the coffees. I'd never had any medical aspirations. It was like another form of plumbing to me. I know, I've never thought about med school either, Mark said, but it's just something we'll never be able to do. As you get older, there's just more and more things you can't do. That's a definition of aging. And then eventually you can't do anything, and that's death, I said. Mark nodded, said, yeah. I'll never be an Olympic ski jumper, I said. Or an engineer, Mark added. We listed all the things we'd never be. Marine biologist, forensic accountant, criminal lawyer, chess grandmaster, paleontologist, piss fuck. I'd forgotten about the coffee. The cups and saucers were cracked and yellowing. I took a sip and shuddered. Maybe they'd brewed it. Maybe they'd brewed the stuff in the bucket too, with the chicken. I've got to wake up early to find out if I still have a job, Mark said. So we left. I rolled my bike along beside me as I walked Mark back to the apartment complex. On the way, we approached a row of car dealerships. Nobody was supposed to be around, so all the lawn sprinklers were activated, making it impossible to navigate the sidewalk without getting drenched. We'd reached an impasse and did the only thing we could. When the last sprinkler was spitting water sideways like someone with a urethral stricture trying to piss, we said our goodbyes. Then I hopped on the CCM and rode away. Back home, I put my bike around the side and headed for the front. I pulled the screen door open and a piece of paper flew out. Without looking, I knew what it was.
That's a real big mood piece for me, because I remember, I think, Josh, you and I are probably about the same age, I would think. And I remember vividly, Rudy and I, like during the Great Recession, I had just dropped out of graduate school and we were both back home and feeling just like worthless pieces of shit, right?
Yeah.
Just hanging out in the middle of the night. Your parents are doing that. They're handing you job applications. I love the way it starts with you thinking, like with the narrator thinking like basically I have too much like intellectual integrity to fill out this application to work at Tim Hortons. And I don't know how many like fights I had with my parents where they're like, well, you got to do something, right? And just the whole thing, it was just perfectly, I think, captured like that experience of being a young millennial at the beginning of the Great Recession, having just left college and being fucking completely lost. And I bet you, like, I don't think that's a highly personal experience to just you and I, you know? I think that's something that would resonate with a lot of people.
Which I like. Yeah, it was. And I sent it to someone who has a book out, just some Canadian writer. I don't even like their stuff. I bought their book, whatever. You gotta support community. But she had in the comments said, "Oh, you know, resumes maybe update it for the internet." And it's like I don't know if you remember, but actually these jobs, it was still very much
Yeah.
like even in 2008, 2009. So I was considering adding a line, kind of a postmodern maybe line of like, you know, that's one of the few dignities the internet, uh, rather that's one of the um, many indignities or rather one of the few dignities of the internet is that you no longer now have to go into these stores and hand them a
Right, with a
resume.
physical piece of paper and basically beg.
I
Yeah.
remember like applying for like a Toys R Us job, and this was before I liked dinky cars. So like if I was applying now, I'd get the cases before they get on the floor. I'd love working at Toys R Us, but back then it was like, and a boomer lady, what we'd call a Karen now, was like, I was trying to get the attention of the manager, and she's like, you know, young man, like speak up, like, you know, and it was like she was like witness, like, and she was trying to help, but it was just super embarrassing, and like I kind of do wish back then that everything was an online form,
Mm.
because yeah.
Yeah, 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 I know. I think it would have been a lot easier for me because I just didn't have. I mean, I still don't, but I really didn't at that point in time have like the social confidence.
I would sabotage myself. Like I once had a FedEx warehouse job interview, and I mentioned how like they asked me like how I was with physical labor, and I kind of mentioned that like so at the time I was flat ironing my hair because I wanted to look like Pete Doherty of the Libertines.
I don't know who that is, but
He has like a very like it's like almost like you know it's almost like a very angular hair,
Mm.
yeah. And I said how I'm fine with the labor, but you know I straighten my hair, and when I sweat, it ruins my hair. And it was like a really subtle thing where it's like I didn't say anything wrong, but like I knew I was
Right,
gonna
right.
get the job that I didn't want.
Yeah, right, right.
So I did have a question, and so the reason I mentioned context before, and this is Ernest,
Yeah.
and if someone has anything to say, it's fine. This story was originally written around the same time as Faith, which I read the last time I was here, and that was
Yeah.
around 2012. It wasn't. Yeah, I wrote several stories. And then I didn't for many years. This is updated, obviously. I've updated certain things, and but it's really hard to update something when my style I feel has changed so much. I mean, I hadn't
Mm.
even discovered like I hated Tao Lin, Guillaume Morris. I hated alt lit. I was very like I was obsessed with John Fonte.
Mhm.
Um, does it fit with my stuff? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's like a through line of like this sort of dark, deeply mundane, self-deprecating humor that's very just as present in this as in your poetry, as it is in the story that some of the other pieces of fiction that you've read. I think that it's that engagement with like the mundane and the humiliating that really makes your work pop for me, and that's very, very much here, I think.
Thanks. That was my main concern is that I did pitch it to Hobart, but I pitched them the older version that was kind of closer to what was in 2012. So I totally understand why they didn't take it. I kind of wish I had just waited and sent this version, but that's actually for me. I don't know about for any of you, and maybe we can talk about it later, but that's part of the process for me. Like I send something, it's kind of that thing where you send the email and you realize the typo after you send it.
Oh yeah.
So I always send the worst version first wherever I send it and improve. But anyway, so okay, well, thanks, William, because yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
thank you,
I
Jeff.
think I think I am going to start sending this version out, and I'm glad it didn't seem completely
Mhm.
out of yeah.
Yeah, and maybe after the reading we can talk more about like submissions and stuff because I think it'd be an interesting topic. And I don't think this is going to be a super long one because we don't have that many people signed up for tonight. And in fact, Rudy was going to read next, but he just put something in the chat saying that he's going to use the bathroom. But Derek, I saw on Twitter you had said that you had a piece in that you published in, or excuse me, that was published in Expat that you wanted to read. Nope. still with us?
Yeah, sorry, I had to put my headphones in.
Yeah, no problem.
I put the piece. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you pretty clearly. You might want to say a little more because when you first came on, you were like stuttering a little, like not you were stuttering, but your connection was. So just want to make sure you're clear here.
Okay. All right, I'll test it out.
Oh
Second.
yeah,
The piece
you're
that
going in and
I'm
out of-
going to read.
Sorry. Yeah, no problem. No problem. So I think Derek will probably be right back. In that case, is there anyone else who wants to read during the open mic after Derek and Rudy? If so, you can just put it in the chat, or if you want to speak now, I guess, since nobody's reading at the moment, that's cool too. I don't want to peer pressure anyone into reading. I don't have any of my own shit to read. I haven't written a word this week, unfortunately. And if not, speak.
I have a haiku.
Oh, Rudy's back, actually.
Good.
Rudy, are you back?
Yeah.
Cool. So actually, you can. Derek was going to read, but he was having connection issues. So
Yep.
if you want to go next, and then Derek will go, and then after Derek, if anyone wants to read, just you can put it right in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to read a 200-word RPG.
Do you have
that
a
I
link to
wrote.
it?
I do, but before I read it,
Okay.
I'm going to read from the ethics and inclusivity statement from the 200-word RPG site
Oh, okay.
because I feel that's important.
Okay.
Ethics and inclusivity. The 200-word RPG challenge is a small contest with small stakes where you design small games to win small prizes. It's an inclusive contest that welcomes the submissions of game designers from all walks of life, and designers from marginalized communities are especially encouraged to participate. We want to make this space a space that's safe for first-time designers, marginalized designers, and designers who struggle in structural and personal ways. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, we're happy to have you. Helping everyone to feel welcome means working together to help everyone feel safe and treating others with consideration and respect. Harassment, intimidation, and hate speech are not acceptable. We will not tolerate discrimination based on race, religion, sex, gender identity, sexual preference, mental health and ability, physical health and ability, size, ethnicity, nationality, or refugee status. The organizers reserve the right to refuse contest submissions, prize donations, and service offers based on these values. Also, for the first time this year, we will allow entries to include content warnings. We hope this will make the challenge safer for everyone to enjoy. Okay, so I'm going to read my 2018 entry that I created for the 200-word RPG contest. But before I do, I'd like to read a content warning that I created for this entry since I considered submitting it to the 2019 200-word RPG contest where content warnings were allowed. So for everybody's convenience, I'm going to link to the content warning. I think this is it. I hope that's the right entry. Yeah. Okay. So this is a content warning for my 200-word RPG called Bootstamping on a Human Face Forever. Nazism, fascism, authoritarian government, war, evil, Holocaust, genocide, oppression, consent, dubstep, arts and crafts, string, propaganda, puppets, dancing, Please don't appropriate the dance moves of other cultures during this game. The Nene, the Whip, Worms, DJs, George Orwell, 1984, Maps, Borders, National Sovereignty, Class Divisions, Bass Drop, Explaining, Reading, Rules, Violence, Loud Music. Don't play this if you have auditory processing disorder. Pushing little children with their fully automatics. Pushing the weak around. Boots, stamping, human faces, wallflowers, mention of time, scene setting, party games, social contact, howling, animal noises, Howl by Allen Ginsberg, which I'll read a short excerpt from. And for anyone who wants to read Howl by Allen Ginsberg, here is the link. Howl by Allen Ginsberg for Carl Solomon. I saw the best minds, though not necessarily, not definitively neurotypical ones, of my generation destroyed by madness, but not necessarily in the problematic Lovecraftian sense, or as in, like some kind of slight against people with mental illness or the mentally ill. Starving, which a lot of people are, hysterical but not feminine coded, naked, nudity warning, dragging themselves through the streets at dawn looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed, not really comfortable saying that word, burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo in the machinery of night, who poverty, Black Lives Matter, and tatters, and hollow-eyed and high sat up smoking in the supernatural darkness of cold water flats floating across the tops of cities contemplating jazz, who bared their brains to heaven under the religious term and saw another religious term, angels, staggering on tenement roofs illuminated, who passed through universities, which are not necessarily the only or best way to get an education, with radiant cool eyes hallucinating Arkansas. And I think I'll just skip reading the rest of this. Not really super comfortable, but I am going to read from a 200-word RPG that I was going to considered submitting to the 2019 RPG contest. But before I do, let me just say I'm going to read it.
You didn't finish your content warning.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Somebody caught me there. So I will now finish my content warning. And I noticed somebody put in the chat that this isn't 200, this is 205 words. And I'd like to point you, if I could, to the word counter on the official site.
There is some dispute among word counter.
There are, yeah. I'm not actually sure if it even fits into the word counter on the official site, but you know what? I don't care, because this is just the content warning. There's no limit on the content warning. Ah, good, fair enough. But anyway, I will finish the content warning. Mention of avoiding mentioning the game. Europeans, contest, competition, black marker, fiction, reality, counting, numbers, Firomano font, fatigue, embarrassment, sick beats, assigned player roles, something called misery tourism, Migos music, bando, death. This isn't just a reactor. Suffering, casual talk about atrocities, levity, Marx, dude's name Mark. 8x8, faces, maps, once again, because double emphasis, but this is the kind you write on. I guess technically someone playing this game might be a pedophile and would have to draw on themselves. So you might have a map drawing on a map, yeah, explaining things, which I think I already put in there, but I forget. Bitter parodies of contest rules and platitudes. Arbitration, a username not cool on any level. Jax, David, Rudy Johnson. So anyway, I'm going to read from a 200-word RPG that I almost submitted to the 2019 200-word RPG contest. Boot stamping on a human face forever. Chibi face. 4 to 6 players. All players but one are oppressed peoples within a fictional European country, the Rabble. Using string tape, create an about 8 by 8 foot map of the country divided into 8 sections on the floor. Bend the string to create uniquely shaped sections. All Rabble players should pick 3 map sections as hubs for their oppressed group. One person who isn't playing the game is the puppet. Another player, the fascist, plays a sick dubstep track while the Rabble speaks casually about their group's oppression. Explaining nothing, convince the puppet to dance on the map you prepared. After the bass drops, Rabble, watch the hubs. Whenever the puppet has both feet in one of yours, strike a tally on your arm with black marker and howl out 2 words describing atrocities you suffered. After howling, resume watching. Fascist, cajole the puppet. Do the worm. Bruh, your nene sick. Try to influence their movement. Avoid mentioning the game. After the song ends, compare marks and role-play scenes of brutal oppression. More marks means more intense scenes. Fascist sets scenes. Rabble portrays victims. Least marked and fascist portray oppressors. Always blare dubstep. The sick beats may be turned down, but not off. The end.
I see this is the trying to kill me reading of the night, huh? Oh, God. I like
No,
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's all your...
No, actually, that's not the one I submitted to that contest. I submitted another one, which was much less, I guess, provocative, and it was deleted from the contest, citing the inclusivity statement. I suppose I've read it here before. It was a game about post-gender scientists in a post-gender state creating bodies for themselves.
Yes. I kind of wish we could travel back in time and like see what would have happened if you had chosen this one for the contest instead. Especially with that. Now, did you actually write that the content warning to be included with the game if you were going to pitch that one?
Yeah, I did. I was
You
going
did
to
write that at the time.
Yeah, no, I was gonna include it because in 2019 they allowed content warning, so I was
Right.
going, if I did submit that one after my other one was kind of ejected, I guess. I was thinking of submitting that one just as a fuck you, actually, along with the 201 word content warning.
I think trigger warnings are the sonnets of the future.
Oh God. My favorite part though was the way that you segged from the trigger warning into how. I think that's a great I don't know like what the term is for one of those jokes where it's almost like, oh my God, Andy Kaufman, right? Where like the joke is the joke people are expecting never comes. Like that act of like delaying gratification and delaying gratification and it yeah, no, I don't know. Just the idea of a game where the content warning is 205 words and the game is 200 is pretty amazing. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you, Rudy. And thank you for at least like showing some mercy and not flat out murdering me with that. Oh God. Okay. Derek. I think we've got Derek and then we've got Griffin, I think.
So is this better? Can you hear me better?
Oh yeah, 100%. Way clearer.
Perfect. Okay. Now look at that guy. He's good looking. Okay. So there's two of me. That's my thing I'm going to read. It's called Wilson Street. Do you still have the link thing? Yep, there you go. Okay. This is the first thing I ever got accepted. May have been the first thing I ever got published. I don't know. It was on Expat. It was, okay. So similar to Josh, it's interesting to look back at these. And as I'm going through and trying to make some final edits to stuff, you will, if you're following along on that piece, see changes and whatnot. But I'm just going to get right into it because this one's longer than I usually read. So Wilson Street. Tim sat by the pool of an incidental apartment complex smoking. He didn't see it, but he heard it. A crack, then a scream, then a whole cacophony of screams and feet rushing toward the original cry. On the other side of the shallow end, streaks of blood appeared, some of it pooling on the concrete, some of it rushing toward the water. The girl was 6 or 12, and after that first scream, she lay silent next to her blood. The lower half of her body would go into convulsions every 30 seconds, her skull. You could see her brain matter from across the pool. Tim didn't know if she was dying right there, but he wasn't sticking around to find out. He cleaned up his area and walked out just as the sirens started wailing. That was before noon. Almost every one of his roommates at Wilson Street would still be in bed. He had 7 or 8 or 15 roommates at any given time. He didn't know. It really didn't matter. Tim went straight to the fridge after he walked in, pulled a 40-ounce Miller High Life out and sat on the front porch waiting for something to happen. He tried not to think about the girl at the pool. He drank quickly and thought about Eva. She was coming home later that afternoon. He was excited to get laid. Eva wasn't his girlfriend anymore. She made that clear and had even added that she never had been, but in her last letter from Seattle, she promised to fuck him when she got back. He hadn't gotten laid since she left with a group of anarchists, most of them Swedish, a few of them local, for the WTO thing. Tim had no idea what any of it meant. It hadn't interested him. He had learned the day she left that she was leaving, and that was the day he also learned that Eva, who he had shared a room with at Wilson Street and fucked pretty much every day, was never his girlfriend. She left her 1986 green Subaru hatchback parked in the grass. He threw a concrete cinder block through the front window after he got off the phone with her that morning. He didn't even know the house had a phone. Someone, he thinks it was Mark, came and woke him up and said there was a phone call for him. He was led down the stairs and then into the back in an area of the house he had never been to, and someone put a cordless phone in his hand. Nate was sleeping on the floor. Lauren was sitting cross-legged next to him, eating green beans right out of the can with a spork. She had on a bikini bottom and nothing else, and just kept aggressively purring at Tim while he listened in shock to Eva break it all down to him on the other end of the line. He hung up on her. That's when he went outside and lifted the cinder block. So she was coming back today, 6 months later, and he was going to get laid. The window had either been fixed or the car wasn't there. He couldn't remember, but had a vague notion that it was not an issue anymore. Tim finished his 40. He stuffed his pockets with brown plastic grocery bags, found a set of keys to the most accessible car, and headed off to Harris Teeter. Inside, he followed the rules. No booze and no ice cream. Booze aroused suspicion. Ice cream melted. When he had finished shopping, he waited until he found himself in an aisle alone. He pulled the grocery bags from his pockets, quickly bagged everything up, and casually walked out the front door with his cart. It is a few hours later. Tim is sleeping in the living room when Brian wakes him up excitedly. Did you hear about Nate? No. Tim was annoyed. People were always filling the house with scandal. Roommates were always moving in or moving out or fighting, getting arrested, waving a gun, being accused of something by Linda down at Boxcar, usually stealing money out of the tip jar, but sometimes using the pool cues as a threat of force, stealing someone's drugs or boyfriend or girlfriend or last beer, or eating the whole case of Stouffer's chicken pot pies in the basement freezer that some poor bastard's lovely mother had left on the front porch as an invitation to come back home anytime, sweetie, which was never supposed to actually be eaten, but instead taken as a kind of private art installation dealing with themes of nostalgia, loss, and pain. But Jesus fucking Christ, sometimes Tim just wanted everyone to keep to themselves for a couple of days, let things die down, and not always have to be prattling towards mutual destruction. He freaked the fuck out and left this morning. Brian snapped him out of it. Tim lit a cigarette and pretended to be uninterested. They were playing with the Ouija board in one of the back rooms last night, the one with the ugly-ass flower curtains. They're smoking something. I don't know what they were smoking. Nate starts asking the Ouija board about his uncle, who I guess is dead, and the uncle fucking answers him, tells him to get the fuck out. That motherfucker packed everything up last night, left this morning. He's going to go live with his grandparents, some farm somewhere, and give himself to God. That's what he wrote in the note. He said he was giving himself to God. Tim kept on pretending Brian's words were just air. Tim had grown up with Nate. He was sure none of the other roommates knew that. It wasn't clear if Nate even knew it anymore, but it was true. Before all this, years and years before, they were in Cub Scouts together. They saw the Titanic together in the movie theater one New Year's Eve and cried and swore to each other they would never tell anyone. Sorry, Jacob. And Tim had seen Nate's father beat the shit out of him. He was worried about his friend, even if he was pretty sure his friend didn't know who he was anymore. Nate had grown up in that church. His dad was a deacon, so that part checked out. Tim hadn't ever heard about any dead uncles, but the world's full of dead uncles. Could be. He dismissed Brian by blowing some smoke in his face and lying back down. Just before he left Tim in peace, he motioned around the living room. We're having a show in here tonight. One of the Swedish bands Eva went with are staying here for a few days, and they're going to do a CD release thing here tonight. Brian walked away, unable to bury a smirk. Hours later, but while it was still light out, another one stopped by. James. James, standing over Tim, towering, eating a peanut butter sandwich. The sandwich also has psychobilin mushrooms in it. Steve had driven a white Honda Accord 6 hours and 44 minutes straight down to a town on the Georgia-Florida border and spent a weekend harvesting mushrooms. Tim had gone with Steve to the North Carolina School of the Arts as soon as he got back with James and Eva, where the four of them tried unsuccessfully to sell the drugs. Now the Wilson Street house was crawling with the things. They had taken over the past few weeks. Some of them were growing offshoots in the laundry room. Several roommates were swearing these were at least 7 times as potent. James was working on an industrial-sized tea bag made out of old bed sheets with designs on infiltrating the house's water supply. Tim had steered clear for the most part. He took a small dose a few nights before. An out-of-town speed metal band was playing in the living room. Tim wanted to skip ahead in time. Steve convinced him the mushrooms were what he needed. It didn't work. He threw up immediately. He kept drinking. It was a small dose. He doesn't think he tripped or had an experience. Asked if you were excited. Tim was in a fog and had forgotten James was there. Yeah, can't wait. James shuffled off stage. Something was happening. The house had stopped being a space and turned into a series of events months ago. Now something was happening to Tim. She looked the same. He heard her when she opened the screen door out front. 50 people came in and out of that door every day, but as soon as he heard the screen open, he sat up and he knew. She looked the same. Why had he thought she would look different? He thought she would be tired. She didn't see him. He sat on the couch facing the kitchen where she was headed. He watched her open the fridge. She had black jeans on. She always had black jeans on. Her ass looked so good. She pulled 2 40s out of the fridge. Someone probably named something, came over and hugged her, welcoming her home. She walked straight to Tim, not looking at anyone. She sat right next to him, not looking at him. She handed him the other 40, still not looking at him. She took a sip of hers after twisting the cap with her white t-shirt, which she always had rolled up to make a little knotted ball by her fucking adorable belly button. Finally, she stopped the game, turned, and smiled, such an enormous, full-toothed smile. I missed you. She kissed him for several seconds. Can we go somewhere and talk? She slapped his knee. No, let me drink my beer first. This time Steve walked in, probably high on those mushrooms they couldn't sell. He sat down next to Eva and gave her his own kiss, also lasting several seconds. The collective spirit of the anarchists extended naturally to sex. Tim never accepted this. He was unable to shed his patriarchal tendencies towards ownership of the female body, as Eva told him sweetly once, weekly. Instead, he saw colors. While others felt sublime liberation at shedding societal expectations around sex and bodies, Tim saw and felt the colors of fury. He had become more guarded, less fun. The house kept adding floors. Rooms continued to expand and opened up. Everyone else seemed to embrace this clinging architecture. Tim felt claustrophobic. The accretion of bodies strewn about were squeezing in on him. At one time, he governed with them. At one time, he ate with them. Now he reeled from them. Steve teased him in front of Eva. Has this guy told you about his personal heart of darkness yet? It's a good one. He laughed. After grunting a kind of no, Tim went somewhere else in his mind while Steve relayed the story. Steve got very few of the facts correct. He increased his own role when it suited his carefully curated image. He retreated in the story when any ugliness shone on him. He told his story. We were at College Hill shooting pool. Some girl we never seen before is playing at the table next to us, doing pretty good. Tim starts sliding his stool a little closer and works up the nerve to start talking to her. Eva smiles at Tim. She pulls a thesis paper out of her bag, all printed up, stapled, title page, the whole deal. It's on Herman Melville's Heart of Darkness. You know they made Apocalypse Now about that. It was Joseph Conrad. Yeah, and Brando got so fat and fucked up they couldn't shoot any of the scenes. He's supposed to be this badass Marine Beret, and they have to film in the shadows so you can't tell how gross he is. Eva's still beaming at Tim. Now she has his hand in hers, interlocked and placed under her thigh. She is running her thumb slowly back and forth over Tim's smooth palm, reassuring him while also laughing with Steve and egging him on to tell the story. So Tim gets her all excited. He tells her he's getting his MFA in fucking Melville. She's dying for him to read his shit. So Tim takes it. We leave, just Tim and me. Steve had already gotten her number and would spend the next week in bed with her, mocking Tim and fucking her in the ass, but these details didn't make it in his story for some reason. We stopped at Charlie's and smoked. Tim, he thought it was opium. I thought it was something. I don't know if it was opium. Steve, uproarious. Well, it just got really good weed. Anyway, we start to walk back here, and you know there's that shortcut right past student parking. Tim, fucking psycho, starts running and trying to open up all the car doors. Everyone was locked. Eva interrupted him and turned to Tim. What were you doing, honey? I don't know. I felt really weird. So no shit, we get pulled over by a cop. We're running on foot, and this cop car starts throwing his lights on and pulls us over like we're fucking speeding. Tim, did you hear me? What were you trying to do? I don't know. I just didn't feel okay. It felt like my brain was going to hurt me if I didn't do something bad for it. Anyway, we go through the whole thing, lying about where we live, obviously, and they keep us all fucking night in separate little interview rooms, asking about James and Eric, and do we know anything about the fire at Patterson Avenue warehouse? Whole time, Tim just has this little thesis paper all stapled, all crisp, just printed white paper, and he's clutching it the whole time. Eva asked Steve if he'd seen the girl since or if Tim had returned the paper. Steve said he hadn't, said he didn't think we'd run into her again. Tim threw up all over Eva's black jeans, and a little bit even got on Steve. Sometime later, Tim and Eva were in another part of the house. It was a narrow room. It has a twin mattress with no bedding on it. There is a boombox. This, too, of 69 Love Songs is playing. Something happened, a tear in the fabric, and this thing that happened 20 years ago is happening now, and my name is Tim. I see Eva from above. I am a drone flying over. Tim is thrusting, gripping Eva's hips from behind. He looks pain. I am scared of this and everything that happens next. I run my fingers over the textured bed sheets in this place and watch the other place with so much fucking fear, and I know what happens next. I look so young. She looks so young. She'll be dead in 8 years. I won't find out until 2 years after that. I'll have nothing to do with that loss, if you can even call it that. I'll swell with grief and horniness for stained, plain mattresses. The luckiest guy on the Lower East Side. Just flecks of memories floating above me. Where do you put it? I'm not setting up a big finish. I don't know the answer. This isn't a riddle or a thing where I'm in control and you can idly sit back and read where it takes us, what it might imply for character development within the story, your own life, or the life of an imaginary author. This part should get edited out. Where do you fucking put it for real, though? Is this why people have health insurance? Nate is probably waking up every morning at 5 a.m., brewing his coffee in the dark, kissing his little kids on the forehead, and then heading out to work his ass off. He always worked his ass off. These things won't matter in 5, 10, 15 years. They don't matter now. But where do you put it all? You can't just say the past because it's also happening right now. I'm watching it. And Tim is outside of her body and she's crying. He's hurt her.
Wow. I love the turn that takes at the very end. I mean, it's amazing throughout, but I love that like out of body experience. It's at once like a sort of literal out of body experience for the character and for the narrator, but is also this like meta textual out of body experience where you like zoom completely out of the work and inhabit the author instead of the work. And I don't know, I think that's an amazing, and the build to that, like I don't know, like the wonderful, like hilarious chaos of the entire piece and the like escalating dread and ugliness of the piece. It's kind of remarkable because by the time you get to the end of the piece, you've forgotten like that it begins with a child dying, right? And there's been so much like silly, like kind of subtly menacing, but still sort of like very like silly human kind of chaos there that you forgot. And it started with this kid dying, and then there's a sudden moment where like it's back to death again. And it's so beautiful. I don't know, it's wonderful. I love the way this piece is set up and structured.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I agree with all that, and I don't mean this isn't like a flippant comment, but like if you could do it again, like would you include some mangy ass German Shepherd with like a band?
Yeah, like a pit bull and a bandana or something.
To use Griffin, yeah, 'cause Griffin knew what I was talking about with the punk house dogs.
We were not allowed to have dogs at any of the punk houses.
That's the beauty of fiction, though. Whenever I write fiction, it's always nonfiction, but there's one detail that will be just something like that. You know what I mean? Like it might be the mangy dog.
No, I know exactly what you mean, but this is hard. This is hard to describe, and I could be wrong about this, but my guess is this is extremely weird. This whole I'm in two things, but I guess they recorded it won't matter. But in the South, the mangy dog experience is, in my opinion, is separate from, like, I see what you're saying and I can visualize it, okay? But there's something that that doesn't mesh well with like the 19-year-old punk house. It was our neighbors that had the mangy dogs, you know what I mean? And their kind of pain and desperation and frothiness at the mouth came from experience. Whereas the punk house, all of that came from an inexperience.
A dog would mean responsibility.
Exactly. Much better said. Yes.
Right.
A dog would be a level of responsibility. Like I've already killed the cat in a couple of my stories. I can't kill the dog. There is, like, we joke about cancelable offenses. That one is probably the last one, right?
Actually, Derek, this is a total, like, I'm going to derail this, but that's like, I am so, like, I hate that. Like, that's a trope in fiction that as a cat person, that I fucking hate. Because everyone thinks, like, oh yeah, you got a cat there. Like, cats in fiction almost just exist to be killed. And that drives me fucking, I love your work, Derek. You know I love your work, but that drives me fucking nuts. I love it when they kill the dog. I'm like, yes, they killed the fucking dog. Like, because it's like, and which might be part of the reason why I had that, like, dog eating, like, monologue in my other story. But, like, it's like, okay. Like, it's like if you're violating sacred cows and stuff, like, I get it, because I have like a visceral, like, negative response to like animals coming to harm in fiction that I definitely don't have when I read about humans coming to harm. But I feel like if you're going to kill the cat, you got to kill the dog. That's just where
Well, I am also a cat person, and through. I agree completely. And if you have not read High Rise by J.G. Ballard, then you should definitely read that book, because the dog is killed in the first sentence, and then he will climb that high rise, and you will figure out how and what. I mean, it's really good.
Yeah.
Derek, I just want to say I'm obsessing on that one line. It felt like my brain was going to hurt me if I didn't do something bad for it. Like, I feel like I'm going to be envious of that line for the rest of my life. So, bravo.
That's canon.
Thank
That's
you. And I'll add this last little tidbit. Since you mentioned the cat thing, I'll go totally off rails. I submitted this to XPAD. It was the first piece I think that got published. And I can't remember. I got it anyway. I used different names. Some of the names that I used were real names. And so a person whose name actually wasn't in the story, but just knew me from that time, and this is a fictional piece, but knew me from that time, so knew sort of element, the houses we lived in, that kind of thing. Sent me a thing and said, you need to remove all that. I hate you. We're not friends, blah, blah, all this other stuff. It became this drama thing. Well, in the big thing that he wrote me, he wrote about Carl Narsgaard's thing where he said that if the house is on fire, you have to choose whether you're going to go in and save the cat or save the Rembrandt. Now, that's not actually, Narsgaard doesn't say that. He quotes it from someone else, but that's neither here nor there. I talked about this at another reading because I wrote Requiem for a Cat as me attending that person's funeral and put it in there as the killing the cat. Like, I didn't kill our fucking cat. We just
Yeah.
But,
I remember this. Yeah, no, that piece was great. And I love that that I now you half explained the origin of that piece before you read it. Now I have the linkage between this piece and that piece. And that's awesome. It's like, there really is like a sense of like, and I guess this is for most authors' works, but in your work, there really does seem to be the sense of like a shared universe that the characters inhabit. And I don't know how much of that is like some of it's autofiction and how much of it is like your voice and the way you use the like unreliable narrators and like the metafictional stuff. But there really is this like cohesive sense to at least most of your work that it feels like, it's almost like Faulkner-esque, right? In the way that they feel like they're kind of all inhabiting the same world, even if they're not sharing the page together.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you, Derek. No, okay. What was Griffin? Oh my God, it's the other Derek now. Okay, Griffin.
Yeah. Okay. So, hold on. Let me get the goddamn link from Google Docs, which is not cooperating. I'm glad it didn't go right after Rudy because this is also an RPG. This is going to be in Yonk issue 1 coming March 1st. So this is make up a guy and get mad at him, or the post-modern Prometheus, a role-playing game for 2 or more people and 1 made-up guy. This game works best if everyone has a Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter, you probably aren't used to making up guys and getting mad at them. You can go for a walk or play Xbox or something and wait for everyone else to be done with their dumb game. To begin the game, go to Twitter and register a new account. The players following the most account chooses the @. The players following the least chooses the display name. The player who joined Twitter first chooses the profile picture, and the player who joined Twitter soonest chooses the header image. Ties are broken by follower count. Least followers wins. If you're playing with more than like 3 people, then at this point, someone probably hasn't gone yet. Whoever's left, or if everyone's gone, then everyone collaborates on the bio. Look what's been added so far and figure out who your guy is. Everyone else should probably do this too, so you make a relatively consistent guy. Check out some real guys for inspiration. Lots of fucking flags in the name, Marxist-Leninist. Just one weird nationalist, etc. Don't be afraid to make your guy someone you might mostly agree with. Most of the terrible takes I see on Twitter are from black flag rose emoji leftists. Once you have your bio, it's time to get mad. What would this guy say that you would get mad at? Whenever you think of something, tweet it. This guy's Twitter should be a never-ending stream of bad takes, but make sure it doesn't devolve into parody. This stuff can be stretched over days or weeks. This game can go on for as long as the players want. You can follow other similar guys that you found in your research. Retweet their bad takes. Don't be afraid to be a reply guy, a classic kind of guy that encompasses a lot of other guys. Keep getting more mad at him. Damn, he's such an idiot. Why would someone say that? Fucking dumbass. When you've gotten as mad as you're gonna get, it's time to get other people mad at your guy. If you've been playing for a while, this might have happened already. Quote tweet him, or screen cap him, or whatever, and post it to your own timeline with some cool dunk. Send the screen caps to friends who don't know about the game. See how many people you can fool. The game ends when everyone gets tired of the guy. He's had his 15 minutes of fame, and it's time to find a new guy to get mad at. It can also end if the guy gets suspended for Twitter, or if somebody figures out that's all an elaborate ruse. If played well by a group of dedicated players, this can take a very long time. You win if you manage to create some sort of tulpa entity and the guy actually becomes real. I do not recommend this, but sometimes it happens. Pretty sure this is how we get a lot of Twitter's recurring characters.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this. Rudy and I have joked about playing a game similar to this on occasion.
Hell yeah.
What I love about this, though, well, above and beyond the concept, which is brilliant, is the idea of taking that like straw man you've created, quote tweeting him or like screenshotting him and then using him to like, and then dunking on him, right? Because I really do wonder how many of these people like who get dunked on incessantly in Twitter like exist for any purpose besides that. Like how many of them are literal sort of straw man, literal constructs. And I don't know, it's beautiful. It's a great idea.
Oh God, that is brilliant. And I love the quality of it. It reminds me of that story from that Alvin Schwartz story, The Herald. You know, the one they made into a movie about the Scarecrow. The one where they create the Scarecrow to you know, basically to throw food on it and to shit on it and to do all kinds of bad stuff to it, and then it comes to life and like kills the guy.
Hell yeah.
It reminds me of that, like that has that kind of energy, and I love the I love how nasty it is, just from a Twitter like takes for saying that you get to dunk on your own guy, and that's just brilliant.
Yeah. I also made a. Hold on one second. I'm gonna attach the file. I guess people seeing the attaching files in this fucking thing is hard. Okay. Never mind. Too much effort. I did a fucking like splash image for it, but I can't figure out how to send images into Zoom.
It's really true. I'm not a gamer, but I would play this game. I feel like I already play this game, though, actually.
You feel like
Wait,
you're the
maybe this
tulpa,
works.
Josh?
Can I just drag it in here? Does that work? No. Okay. Yeah.
What are you trying to do? You might be able to screen share. Are you?
Oh yeah, that's true. Give me a second. Let me
Sure.
see if I can. Oh no, y'all are gonna see my whole fucking. All right.
Hey, you screen shared in the beginning.
Did I? All right, let's just open it and
I'm just joking
then
about the trolls.
screen share desktop one. Oh, system preferences. I'm sorry, y'all. This is taking forever.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh no, you're good. I think it's actually possible to screen share just a window if you don't want to show your whole desktop. I think it's possible to do that with Zoom. Because I think I did that for one of my games or something.
You did, yeah. I don't know that I've ever actually used the screen sharing function myself, but
Okay. Oh, no, it won't be able to record the content of my screen until it's quit. So never mind.
are you trying to share a web page or an image or a?
I'll just fucking upload it to Imgur real quick.
Okay.
And then share that
Sweet.
link.
There you go.
Because I want y'all to see this. It's a good image.
Definitely. In the meantime, if anyone wants to read after Griffin, you can just say so in the chat. Rudy, do we have anyone else who I missed?
Josh says haiku. As far as I know, I don't think so.
Okay. Here's the splash page image.
Oh, here we go. Oh, and my something on my computer is blocking. All right, it's probably no script.
Hashtag me too, though. It's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, mine is blocking it too, I think.
Son of a bitch. Oh well. So it goes.
Oh well, if you want to share it maybe after the reading. If
Oh wait, hold on. Let me try
okay.
again. Try it again.
Okay. Okay. Nope.
Nope,
Oh, well.
I can't see it.
So it goes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyone watching it on YouTube wouldn't be able to see it anyway. So if you do figure it out after the reading, you can always just put the link in then. Josh, you had a couple of haiku. And then if anyone wants to go after Josh, just put it in the chat, or else we will wrap up after that.
Sure. Very short and actually not very good. Just it's something I've always been interested in. That's actually something bonded with Mike Andrelzik about. He has a book of haiku dissolving, which is really good. And it's actually what Kerouac was actually good at. Think like people should like read his like he's literally, if you read like American haiku anthologies, there'll be actually a lot of like he's overrepresented, but it's like it's actually because he was that to me that was the one thing he actually did really well. You can have whatever opinion you want of him, but just his haiku and exposing and not I just got I realized that I just got a private I'm getting a call from, I'm gonna ignore it. Sorry, I'm just distracted because I just realized that someone told me that the editor that potentially turned down that North End story is either here or was here, which is like just amusing for me, but that's funny. Sorry, just that was very distracting. But yes, so but I agree with their decision. I even said that. This is one of the odd times where I actually didn't say something bad about the person.
You're growing, Josh. You're growing.
I'm actually really proud. Like I could have been like, yeah, these people don't know what they're talking about. Fuck this person. But no, I agreed with them, and I have grown a lot. So, anyways, very very short, very stupid. But just because there was nothing else, I'm trying it out. So, and they're both in the manuscript. I'm trying to that I won't send to that editor because I know better than that now. I have to find someone who will accept me. So haiku number 30. Sorry, I actually want to. There, okay. Haiku number 30. At the end of the burrito, guacamole. And haiku number 43. Dark clouds, a rug on the city. That's it. Just 2 haiku.
Have you thought about making them longer? I like them.
Well, I'm trying to stay true to the original form, which is like people think the 575 syllable thing is a thing. It's actually not a thing. The Japanese syllables don't translate to English syllables. It's more about there's certain framing of certain things.
No, I like the first one a lot. I like once again, like I said before, what I like about your work is like your engagement with the mundane. And I like so many times when you see people, and this may just be because I've read a lot of shitty haiku and not many good haikus, but like when people try to write a haiku, they'll often like reach too far, like reach too hard for the profound and end up with something silly. And you kind of reached for something silly and ended up with something profound. So I think that's great.
I also am pleased because I've really wanted to be published in the Taco Bell Quarterly. And because this haiku is about burritos, I think they might take it.
Fingers crossed. Someday, Misery Tourism is going to try to start. Oh, I almost said start beef with Taco Bell Quarterly. I don't know. Like sometimes we have to pick a fight with them just to see like the two most like disreputable lit mags going at it or something.
Well, did you see that stupid tweet from someone like, I mean, I actually like them, but about, actually, sorry, this is probably more for like the unrecorded part, what I was going to say.
Watch yourself. we'll still.
No, and also now I realize who the editor was. I mean, it was that Joshua guy who was here. Shit. I mean, that's like embarrassing for me, not for him. But no, there was a thread that was going among our alt circle where someone said, why would anyone want to capture the spirit of the internet in a novel? Why would anyone want it captured? What's the point of that? So he didn't want the internet written about, I guess. And so I just said, dude, I totally feel the same way except about telegrams. Which I feel was like kind of like Griffin's game. Like I was playing Griffin's RPG there with that tweet. But
Okay. All right.
Speaking of which, I fucking figured it out. I just tweeted it from one of the burner Twitter accounts I used to make it.
There we go.
So check out that link to see the splash image.
Oh wow. That's good.
It's
That's
awesome.
really good. Oh shit.
That's good.
Oh.
That's an incredible for a burner. That's your burner Twitter account name. God.
Damn.
Well, I needed it to be good so I could stick it in the image.
It's good.
And that's like my go-to joke fucking like tanky Twitter guy is the Tanky Banksy. So
No, that's fantastic.
William,
What? What happened?
I'm never gonna follow, or was it Rudy? One of y'all followed me from
Oh, I
Misery
followed
Tourism.
you. Yeah. You're now followed by Misery Tourism.
Good. Thank God.
Yeah, that's way better than my
I'm glad
burner
everyone's
account.
following the fucking Tanky Banksy.
Can we please use it?
Oh my God.
Yeah, we do. We need to use yours as well, Mullane, definitely. Oh God. Okay.
I'm gonna delete the image now though, so it doesn't spoil anyone for Yonk.
Gotcha. Okay.
I love it because, like, if it does achieve infamy, like, once we get bored of it, we can just expose the, like, look, it was all a game.
Right.
You got
like an
trolled or
ARG.
something, I don't know.
Everyone's
Oh,
following
God.
Tanksy now. Awful. All right, now I gotta fucking go put my phone number back on my real Twitter.
All right. Did anyone else want to read before we wrap this up? Going once, going twice? Nah, I don't. Okay, I think it's about 10 o'clock, so we'll end the reading there. As usual, I'll keep this Zoom meeting open for a while. Yeah, so if you were watching this on YouTube, that was Misery Loves Company. We do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you want to join us, if you want to read, it's open to literally fucking anyone. Just don't come in and troll because we'll kick you out. But if you don't do that, you're good. Yeah, if you follow us at Misery Tourism, you can see the link when we tweet it out. That's it. Okay. All right.